Welcome to Practical Talk Time. I'm your host, Usha Kumar. Today I have with me a wonderful guest who's here to talk about dream work and how to interpret dreams. And that is Donna Katsuranis. She's an interfaith minister from Brookfield, Connecticut. And I'm so excited to bring this 1 hour live show where the viewers can call in with their questions as you follow our program. So please join me in welcoming Donna. Donna, welcome to the show.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm so delighted to be here.
It is lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
And this is the first, couple weeks of the new year.
Yes. Chilly
And
ones too.
First week, really. And I just want to first welcome you and also want to give some kind of an introduction to people about your background. How did you start your dream work?
Well, probably the best way to start was I met a gentleman named Robert Moss. And Robert is an author of a significant number of books on dream work. His first book was called Conscious Dreaming. And if anybody's looking for a really good book on dream work, that's an excellent one to start with. And I met him in 2001 in the spring.
I see.
And I started taking monthly classes with him. And the first class that I took, when I very first met him, I thought to myself, wow, this man has an enormous personality, and he can fill a room. And I don't usually do well with people who are that big. But he said two things that night that kept me coming back that have to do with his form of dream work, which is called active dreaming. The first thing he said was, just because I say this works, that doesn't mean anything. You have to decide if this works for you. And then the second thing that he said, which was really the clincher, was, and this is the cardinal rule of active dreaming, you never let someone else tell you what your dreams mean. I said, oh, I like that a lot, because there's too many opportunities in this world to give away our power. And when it comes to something as deeply personal as dreams, I think that that's one of the reasons that people don't share their dreams on a regular basis, is because we're afraid of being judged, we're afraid of letting someone else decide what our dreams mean, and it's much too intimate a thing to put into that kind of space. It has to be done safely, if you will.
Donna, may I ask what you did prior to meeting Moss?
I spent 12 years in banking and 10 years in insurance.
All the good sectors.
Exactly. All the good left brain things. I was kind of starting to go like this. And then I realized I don't have to do this for my entire life. And within a few years after I started working with Robert, I became an interfaith minister. I had been doing spiritual work for some time, sort of on the side. And working with Robert, one of the many different ways that we look at dreams is through a spiritual facet, if you will. And I started to realize that, if you will, the world spirituality, the shamanism, the earth-centered spiritualities, that they really appealed to me. And I started doing more studying in all the different religions of the world.
So your dream work actually led you to your current profession.
It did, yes. Yes, it was.
Being an interfaith minister.
Yes, it was.
You marry people?
I marry people, I bless babies, I do funerals, I do house blessings and car blessings and dog blessings and
so from your dream work led you here.
It did.
So let's get back to the dream work, because dream, the word, the verb itself has several meanings, right?
It does.
One thing is just what you desire.
Mm-hmm.
I dream of something. I need to do this, I want to do this, I
Yes.
want to do that. But we are now on this show talking about the dreams that we have while we sleep.
Mostly we'll talk about the nighttime dreams.
It could also be a daytime dream.
It could also be a daytime experience. I've had a lot of people who, for various reasons, they don't have the ability to recall nighttime dreams. And certainly we will talk about dream recall. But one of the things that I try to remind people is we are dreaming right now. Every minute of every day, there are things that are coming at us from, I like to think, the universe, you know, spirit, or maybe it's coincidence, maybe whatever it might be. Why not look at it all through the eyes of, well, if I had awakened in the morning and this had been my dream, what would it mean? And even when I decide what something means, that doesn't mean I'm giving my power over to that decision of what it means. It's just, oh, isn't that interesting? That's something that I'm going to keep in mind. Just as a for instance, I was on the road one day and I had this question in my mind. I had a puzzle that I was puzzling over. And I looked up and there was one of those yellow diamond-shaped bridge clearance signs. You know, how many feet? 11 feet, 11 inches. Well, the number 1111 always reminds me of my Aunt Barbara.
I see.
For a number of different reasons. And the idea of looking at this puzzle that I had been puzzling over through Aunt Barbara's eyes, that was the answer to my question.
I see.
I said, isn't that an interesting thing? Aunt Barbara would have done X, Y, and Z, and it never would have dawned on me to approach it from that kind of an angle. So, yes, I want to talk about nighttime dreams, absolutely, but don't limit ourselves.
So
to
the
just what
daytime
happens at
dreams
night.
could be actual daytime nap dreams,
They can
or it could be just in your awake
walking around,
state.
yes.
You could still have a dream.
Exactly, exactly.
I know that everybody who's watching can relate to having some dream or the other, right,
Yes.
from childhood.
Yes.
Right? And very often one wakes up in the morning where there's something terrifying or something really good, and they just wake up and they can only remember a very small part of it.
Yes.
They cannot really remember the whole dream. So how do you explain that?
Well, part of that is the fact that we are, as George Carlin would have said, we're just human beings walking around, shaking hands, how you doing, give me a piece of lettuce. It's not, we have a limited capacity to remember things. And the moment that we wake up in the morning, we have got all of this sensory input coming at us. We've got the alarm clock, we've got the telephone, we've got, oh, look out the window what the weather is. We've got, oh, I have that report due at work. We have the kids, we have, I have to go pee. We have, I'm hungry. We have, oh, I have to remember to put gas in the car before I go to work.
Like that.
All of these
Yeah,
things.
that's true.
It's no wonder those nighttime dreams just kind of go away. I've used the analogy, it's like trying to grasp at smoke.
I see.
Sometimes they just go away so quickly. But if we can remember even a few words of that nighttime dream and write them down, that's really the key to building our own dream dictionaries.
So you're suggesting you're journaling.
Yes,
of dreams.
absolutely, absolutely. When we have our own journals to go back to, we can look back and say, well, gosh, anytime I dream about Uncle Dave, then that means that I'm at a really stressful point in my life and I need to be doing thus and such that Uncle Dave would have done. Or anytime I see a raccoon in my dreams, then that means X, Y, or Z. When we spoke on the phone earlier in the week, one of the things that we talked about was those dream dictionaries that we can get at the supermarket or wherever. And they're good for starting fires as far as I'm concerned. They generalize things that are much too personal. So I think I had told you
Yes.
the analogy.
So for one person it might mean one thing, and And for another person, the same object or the same event could be something else.
That's exactly right.
And so it's not okay to apply the same answer to
That's exactly
all
right.
dreams.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a friend who, when she has a bat show up in her dream, it has to do with cancer.
I see.
When a bat shows up in my dream, it has to do with the soul of a recently departed person.
I see.
Everybody has their own things, and we have to decide for ourselves what these things mean. And it's not the kind of thing that's going to just happen all of a sudden. Sometimes it does.
Yeah.
But for instance, the bat identification thing, that took me a little bit more than a calendar year to figure out, from the first time I had an oddball incident with a bat in the physical world, in waking life, and then another one, and another one, and another one. Just bats in very strange circumstances. And it was plain to me that, well, there's something going on here, and I'm just missing the boat. I don't know what the answer is to it. And finally, at the end, it was about 13 months, and finally, one showed up, and it was in just these exact circumstances, and I said, oh, you know,
This
the
is
ton,
what
the
it
ton of
matters.
bricks, the light
Yes.
bulb, the aha moment.
Then you were able to relate all those dreams
Yes.
to a certain event.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Can we dream when we want and stop when we want? And you
Some
had a
people
good
can't.
example with your family.
Oh,
family
with my
member.
father-in-law,
Yes.
bless his heart. As far as dreaming when we want, stopping when we want, we're dreaming all the time, so that's really more a question of dream recall. And when my father-in-law was in the Navy during World War II, he had horrifying nightmares, which sort of makes sense when you're in
Scary
that kind-
dreams,
yes,
basically.
very, very scary dreams. And the scariest part for him was the fact that he was aware that he was dreaming and he couldn't wake up. So from that time until, let's see, Dad lived with us in 2004. So from 1940 something until 2004, what is that, 60 some years,
Yeah.
he didn't remember dreams.
I see.
When I started doing the dream work, he said, I used to dream. I said, oh, really, Dad? Did you? Yeah, I haven't remembered a dream since the war. And we talked about it, and I said, you know what, Dad? If that were my situation, and I were in that terrifying place where you were, and having these nightmares, I would think that my conscious brain was saying, oh no, it's not safe to remember dreams. It's not safe to go there.
Yeah.
So it shut things down. And now that you're in a safe place, in a safe time, if you decide that you want to do anything with dreams, you can use my special mantra. You go to bed at night, and the last thing you say to yourself before you close your eyes is, please let me remember a dream. And for those of us who are spiritual, that's addressing spirit. For those who are not spiritual, that's setting up
Your own brain.
your own
to,
brain.
To remember.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same concept as studying just before you go to sleep.
So you
or
remember
any
it
of
for
those
the next day's
That's
test. Yeah.
exactly right. That's exactly
I
right.
used to do that.
And Dad came to me, it was a couple of months later. He said to me, say, I remembered a dream last night. And that was the beginning. He didn't remember a lot,
Yeah.
still wasn't quite into it, but he remembered a couple of dreams. So that was one of my biggest coups.
That's a lovely story. When a person has bad dreams, that really scares them. That makes them feel very uncomfortable and terrified. What should they do?
There's a lot of different approaches to nightmares. The first thing that I tell people is, especially if you're dealing with children having nightmares, don't say it's just a dream, because it's a very real experience. It's a very palpable experience. So for an adult, if you're having scary dreams, the best thing that you can do is, of course, the hardest thing to do, which is to say, go back into the dream. I have techniques for going into dreams in a fully conscious state. We call it dream reentry. And we go back with the aid of heartbeat drumming.
I see.
And it's basically a meditation, if you will. And it's like walking back into a room. And you go back into the room and you go over to the scary monster and say, "What do you need to tell me, scary monster?" Or you go over to that big tiger in the dream and say, "Do you have a message for me? Are you trying to tell me something? Because you're chasing me and it's really getting annoying." And just dialogue with these characters in the dream, whatever it is that is fearful. And it's not always something that is animate. You know, sometimes I had a very scary dream that had to do with an Airstream trailer. I don't know why Airstreams are so scary, but in that dream, it was absolutely terrifying. But I was able to go back into the dream, look around, see what the landscape was like, see what the characters were like, and because I was fully conscious, I was in control, and I could talk to the animate and the inanimate in the dream and get the information that I needed to process. And you know, in that dream, the Airstream was symbolic of something, and not what you think. And it was something that I was able to rectify quite easily. But it was something that had been trying to get through to my subconscious mind for some time. And I either had been not remembering the dreams, or I had been ignoring the information, or I just, for whatever reason, I just wasn't getting it. And that's very often what will happen when we have nightmares, is that there's something that's trying to come through and we're just not getting it, and it's trying harder and harder and harder. It's knocking harder and harder on the door to come in. When a child has a nightmare, one of the best things that we can do for them is sit down and say, "Okay, you're scared, I get that, I'm here, I'm the grown-up, I'm going to comfort you. What shall we do with this? First of all, tell me your dream. If they're old enough, give them some crayons and a piece of paper and have them draw the dream. Have them draw the scary monster or the road that they were running down or whatever it might be. Okay, now we have a representation of it. If they're too little, then we can write it down for them, or we can draw it for them. Take dictation from them. Don't try to interpret it for them. Just listen to what they have to say. Okay, well, now we have this picture of this scary monster. What would you like to do with it?" And you know, 9 times out of 10, rather than, I would expect a kid to say, "Well, let's burn it," or "Let's tear it up," or "Let's get the brown crayon and squish it out." 9 times out of 10, kids will say, "I think I'm going to make friends with that monster."
Oh, really? Okay.
Or, "I'm going to make that monster eat a rainbow so it'll be a nice monster," or something like that. Kids are amazing at, once they realize they have control over the situation, at deciding on wonderful ways to diffuse that scary energy.
I have heard people say that sometimes when they have a scary dream, like somebody's attacking them, or even worse, that time they say that they get so tongue-tied they cannot really shout. They want to shout out and they can't shout out. And that's which part of the dream stage?
I couldn't say which part it is. Generally speaking, most dreams will take place either when we're in REM sleep or when we are in what is called the hypnopompic or the hypnagogic states. And one of them is where we are just falling asleep. The other one is where we are just coming out of sleep.
I think most people get their dreams around that time when they're waking up.
Exactly. Those are the ones we're most likely to remember.
Occasionally it'll be, okay.
I mean, the REM sleep is when the subconscious mind is technically the most busy.
I see.
But the hypnopompic, I think it's the hypnopompic where we're coming out of sleep. That's when we're most likely to remember it, because it's just proximity. It's right there.
And scientists say that, all dreams are just your brain processing the events that you've seen, that you've been part of, and things that you've experienced. and your brain is just trying to, like a database, trying to put all the
Sort the files.
information, sort the files, and put them away. But then that doesn't explain dreams for a lot of people, whether it's my family, myself, and just from my experience. There are dreams that show a place that you've never seen, never been to, people that you've never seen before. Sometimes the faces aren't very clear, but and events that are going to be happening in the future. So how does one explain that?
There are a lot of different ways in which we dream, and one of those ways is precognitive dreaming, dreaming the future. The first thing I'll say about precognitive dreaming is anytime we dream the future, it is always a possible future. And I'll tell a story about that. But one of the things to remember about precognitive dreaming is that goes back to what I was saying earlier about we're only human. And when we dream dreams of the future, we may or may not be remembering the dream correctly. And some of us, when we dream dreams of the future, it's crystal clear. Here's the beginning, here's the middle, here's the end, this is what's going to take place, these are the characters, this is the outcome, time, date, weather.
But most people don't remember a whole stretch.
Exactly.
It's just a snapshot or just a
piece,
like a
sort of.
second of worth of information.
And that's another thing where if we have a tendency toward having precognitive dreams especially, it really behooves us to keep that dream journal. It's some semblance of documentation. I dreamed this on March 12th, and it happened on June 22nd. It's a way of looking back at these journals and saying, oh, isn't that interesting? Whenever I dream of, and this is for me, whenever I dream of someone that I don't know, that has a very clear face, I will see that person in the physical world at some point in the near future, days, maybe a week or two. In my dreams, most of the time, the only people who have clear faces are people that I know, and other people are generic characters. You know, there's the tall white guy, there's the young black woman. Oh, wonderful.
We have a caller. Hello?
Hi, I want to...
You're on. What's your name?
Alicia.
Alicia. Do you have a question for Donna?
Yes, I do.
Hi, Alicia.
Hi, Donna. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How can we help you tonight?
Okay, so I had taken this remote viewing class, and then that night I dreamt that I couldn't do the remote viewing, but a flying saucer came down and landed on a school, like into the gymnasium, like really hard. And then I remember running and trying to hide from them, but I was thinking, this is what everybody thinks, that they're going to be the one that gets away, so why should I be in that reality of being afraid and trying to get away? But I wanted to get away, so that was a dream.
Okay, and you're calling to play with that dream? Do we have your permission to play with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. My first question to you, Alicia, is how did you feel when you woke up from this dream? What were your emotions?
I didn't feel great because I don't like to run.
Okay.
I judged my choice there, and that thought pattern that everyone thinks they're going to make it, they're not going to get sick, or that, all that thought pattern we have, not me. And I was like, I don't think that's a good thought.
So now your emotions, you said that you didn't feel great. Did you feel angry? Did you feel sad? I'm looking specifically for emotions with this piece.
Okay, I feel good with ETs, and I was upset that they came down with a bang.
Okay.
That it was upsetting to everybody.
Okay.
That there wasn't grace and, and etiquette. It was more like, we're here.
Okay, a big thud.
Yeah.
All right. My next question, and what we're doing right now, Alicia, is called the Lightning Dreamwork process, and this is something that Robert Moss has developed. And just for your edification and for the rest of the viewers out there, I'm going to be doing a class next week on dreaming, and we're going to talk about Lightning Dreamwork with that. And I'm going to give my phone number in a little bit in case people are looking to do that. I'm going to do that.
And that is a free
That's a free class in Brookfield next Wednesday. So the first question in the lightning
In
dream
Brookfield?
in
And you
Brookfield.
want to give your number now because I don't have a radio working?
Sure. My phone number is 203-241-7336, and you can call me, and I'll repeat it again through the show. And if you're interested in coming and playing with dreams, I would love to have you. But
Thank you.
back to your dream, Alicia. So you felt a little startled by these folks, but am I correct that your interest was piqued?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm interested because all this information about being star-seeded, you know, and all this,
Okay.
that we're here to shift the planet, but this wasn't about shifting the planet.
Okay.
So, you know, and there's always this mistrust of what to believe, what not to believe, you know,
Of course,
what's going on.
of course. So my second question is, in this dream, did the location have any familiarity to you?
No.
Okay.
But I knew it was a school gymnasium.
Okay. It was a place that could exist in the physical world. You just haven't seen it
Yes.
yet, right? Okay.
And I did a little with this Voyager's work where you hypnotize yourself to see if you were ever abducted.
Uh-huh.
I actually, you know, I've had a few moments where I felt like I've had stuff to do with people from off planet.
Okay. Now, back to the dream. What is the question that you are left with from this dream? What do you want to know?
What I want to know is, I felt out of control, and I felt like I didn't know how to handle it, I guess. Like, how do you handle it? Do you run? You know, I didn't know how to, so
your question was how to handle that situation in the dream?
yeah.
Okay. Well, if it were my dream, one of the things that would come to mind is that I had just been to a class that night on very esoteric work, and here I am running from these folks who have popped into my life all of a sudden. And I would think that, well, I'm not big on running to begin with, so why should I run from them? I would want to turn around and talk to them. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind is, you know, there's a part of me that's pursuing this line of study, if you will, but there's a part of me that's a little bit afraid of it, which that makes sense. It's a very big world out there, and I don't think it's something to be taken lightly. Another thing that I would look at in the dream is the fact that these aliens landed in a school gymnasium. So it's in a school, a place of education, and it's in a gymnasium, a place of athleticism. So there could be messages here for me in terms of my physical body being more athletic, continuing to learn things in terms of the school part of it. So those are just some of the things that come to my mind when I play with the dream. What sort of thing would you do in your physical world right now to honor the fact that you had this dream? Is there something that you can do that would, if this dream were a gift from Spirit, how would you honor that gift?
Well, I would, I guess it's about getting stronger and not running away.
Okay. And now bear in mind, I'm not asking you what you think the dream means, because that's not my business. My question...
What the gift is.
Yeah.
Well, there was another dream at the same time right after that.
No,
Did I go there too? Or
did it have, it felt like it was a continuation?
Well, I think because he said you go back in the past and then you go to the future, the remote viewing kind of, you know, I felt like it was a very, I had a feeling like it was a past life. Kind of better.
That's always a possibility. I mean, one of the things that I feel strongly about, and as I was telling Usha earlier, with any of these things where a dream is concerned, we never eliminate any possibility when it comes to a way that the dream should be interpreted. So if someone has a dream of, you know, driving to work and finding the parking space, Well, that might not be just about finding a parking space. Yes, maybe the next morning they'll find that exact parking space when they go to work, but it might be about a spiritual connection. There's any number of things. So my suggestion is perhaps you might want to give me a call later on and talk about my dream circle next week, and maybe you might want to come to Brookfield.
Okay, I live in the Bronx. It's pretty far away. Is there a train?
That's a little bit of a trudge. Give me a call later on and we'll talk about it.
All right. I truly appreciate talking to you. This was lovely, and I feel that you're very strong intention.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Sweet dreams.
Okay, so bless you both, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
There's so many different ways that we can approach dreams.
Yeah.
And we should never say, oh, that dream is only about X.
Yeah.
You know, and as you noticed when I talked to the young lady about my opinion on her dream, I didn't say, your dream means this.
There's
another
another
one.
caller.
Excellent.
Hello?
Hi, I have a question for Donna.
May I know your name?
My name is Roberta.
Hi, Roberta. How
Roberta?
are you?
What's your
I'm
question?
good. How are you?
Very well, thanks. What can we do for you?
I just have a question. I'm lying in bed and I was watching your show, and I was just wondering if there's a way that if I go to sleep and have dreams, that it will give me any premonition about what's going to be happening in my future.
That's
Or if
That's always a possibility. That is always a possibility. Are you asking how to figure out if your dreams are premonitions?
Yeah. Is there a way?
The best way to do that is to start journaling your dreams and looking back at those journal entries and seeing what's taking place when things start to happen in the physical world. So, you know, as I was about to talk to Usha a few minutes ago, different people have different harbingers in their dream. When I have a dream where I see a face of someone that I haven't met yet, I'm going to see them in the physical world. The people with faces in my dreams are usually people that I know. But if it's a face that I don't recognize, but it comes through really clearly, I know I'm going to meet that person in the physical world. If I see that person and there's a particular situation taking place in the dream, then I know that that situation is going to take place in the physical world. With some people, when they see the moon in the sky, that means that it's a precognitive thing. You have to do your own research with your own dreams, and you'll be able to figure out what those different things are that are harbingers of the future.
Right. And if you're not writing them down, how are you going to remember them?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So now you have homework.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If I can remember them when I get up. Now, how come sometimes you can remember them so vividly and sometimes you can't?
You figure that out, and you are a better dream teacher than I am.
It's awful. You know, it can come to you in the middle of the next day, or...
And that's a good time to write them down, too. And I can tell you, Roberta, in this age of all of these fancy pants, these smarty pants phones, we have notebooks with us all the time on our phones.
That's true.
Write that stuff down.
Perfect.
You know, even if it's just writing a few words down that will spark your memory later on, jot them down.
Okay, will do.
All right.
All right, thank you very much.
Sweet dreams.
Okay, thank you. You too. Bye.
Thanks.
Hope that answered your question. Thank you.
The process that I was going through with the previous caller, the lightning Dreamwork process, that's the process that was developed by Robert Moss.
I see.
And the crux of that is, as I said to the young lady, I never asked her what she thought her dream meant, because that's up to her. And I'm not going to put you on the spot and say, okay, I've given you all of this brilliant input. Tell me what it means.
Yeah.
It's not my business, and you might not know right away. When I give that input, I always say, if it were my dream, this is what it might mean to me.
I noticed that you asked, how did you feel I mean, how do you feel about the dream? How did you feel right after the dream?
Yes.
I think that is a big clue, because if it made you feel happy, then it relates to something that's happy.
Yes.
And if it's scaring you, it's something a little more
That's
ominous.
exactly right.
And if it's going to make you sad, then there is something sad, some sadness related to that dream.
Yes, yes.
And that's how you start understanding your dream.
Yes.
And that was a good question she asked, right? About
precognition.
whether,
Yes.
whether about
Yeah,
precognition,
yeah.
and whether it is something that's going to happen, or sometimes it could be something that's happening at the same time somewhere else.
That's
right?
exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, precognitive dreams can be just simple little slivers of things. I had a dream just after I started working with Robert, and in the dream I was driving along a particular stretch of road that I was familiar enough with, because I had traveled it maybe 3 or 4 times in my life. It was definitely out of the way. It was not an area of, it was actually in New Fairfield, not an area of New Fairfield that I really ever had occasion to go. And within 6 months, Robert moved his dream classes to a building that was on that stretch of road.
I see.
So sometimes it takes a little while for things to transpire, and sometimes those little snippets that we have in our dream, there's no way to tell what that ultimately was going to mean.
When someone dreams something quite clearly, and it's kind of some kind of an event, and that person is not able to pinpoint what exactly that is, what it relates to. It's some event, but they don't know where it's coming and in what form. How do we know when it's going to happen? Immediately in the next week, next same day, a few months from now, a few years from now? Because I've seen that happen too, a couple of years later.
Yes. One of the techniques that I referred to before about dream reentry, where we can go back into a dream, we're fully conscious, we're able to dialogue with the characters. If we have a dream that we feel is precognitive, and again, it's always a possible future, then going back into it is a very handy thing to do. My friend Wanda.
So we shouldn't be afraid of the dream and try to stop. Should try to explore.
We
it.
should get as much information as we can. So just to give you an example, my friend Wanda had what we call the red Honda dream. And she was driving to work on a snowy winter day, which was nothing big, and she said that she remembered within the dream saying, "Why am I dreaming about my commute? What's the big deal here?"
It's what she does every day.
It's what she does every day. And she is stopped at a traffic light, and on the other side of the traffic light there's a bridge, and on the other end of the bridge there's a red Honda. And in the dream, the traffic light turns green, she goes, the Honda goes, and in the middle of the bridge, the red Honda hits a patch of ice, spins out, and hits her car. And she woke up. Oh, boy, okay, what am I going to do with this? Because there were things in the dream that told her that it was precognitive.
Yeah.
So she went back into the dream. She did a reentry, and she looked
on
around.
the same day or another
I think
day?
it was within a couple of days.
Okay.
So she did a reentry. She was not able to change the outcome of the dream. Sometimes when we do a reentry, we can do what we call dreaming it forward. You know, there's a point at which we woke up.
We woke up, and
oh,
now you go,
wait,
now
what
you
was
try
gonna
to
happen?
find out what else happens
Exactly.
after that.
And she wasn't able to change anything. So she said, okay, I have to just get as much information as I can and just keep it in my memory banks. So she was watching on her commute, and she could see exactly how much snow was on the road. She could see different decorations that people had on their mailboxes, so she knew what time of year exactly it was, because she lives in a very snowy part of the world. And she put a Post-it on her dashboard with these notes, just little bullet points on it. And one day she's driving to work, and she said, okay, you know, the hair on the back of the neck, standing up, she said, okay, this feels a little too much like it could be the day. And she got to that traffic light, and it was red, and she was the first car in line, and she looked across the bridge, and there was that red Honda. And the traffic light turned green, and she just sat right there.
She didn't move.
She did
Otherwise
not move.
she could have hit
All
that
the
car.
traffic behind her was laying on their horns, beep, 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 and she said, Y'all can just sit through another cycle of lights. It'll be fine. And the red Honda got halfway across the bridge, and it spun out and it hit the bridge
Okay. And
rather than hitting another car. So there was nothing she could do for them,
Yeah.
but she could keep herself
Herself safe,
out of the
okay.
situation.
You even had another story, remember, with the crow
Oh,
lifting the
goodness.
car.
Oh,
Another
goodness.
car story.
That was quite something. I went to one of Robert's workshops, and one of the women who was participating came in, and she was a little bit frazzled. I said, "Are you okay?" She said, "I had a really interesting morning." She said, "I had this strange dream, and I was in the shower this morning, and I was telling my husband the dream. And in the dream, I was driving along the Massachusetts Turnpike, and this crow came down, swooped down, picked me up out of my car, and just carried me along the highway. And I was looking down, and I was watching my car, and I was watching this green, I think it might have been a green Honda. I was watching this green Honda, and there was this terrible accident. It was caused by this green Honda, and my car was involved in it, and it was terrible." And so, my husband and I talked about it.
Was it a really vivid dream?
It was a very vivid dream, especially the
Color? In color
it
or
was
black
in
and
color,
white? That's
and
another thing I wanted to ask you
in color,
about.
the whole thing, and the crow carrying her
You-
over this by the back of her clothes, and that sort of thing. And she's asking her husband what he thinks, and crow might symbolize this, and flying above your troubles, and all sorts of potentially esoteric
but not an
interpretations.
actual
But
accident kind of thing.
it certainly didn't sound like it was something that could be something that would transpire in the physical world. I mean, crows
On the
generally-
road and with the car and
with the
everything.
car, and crows are not real good at lifting up human beings.
Yeah.
So she's traveling to this workshop an hour or two later on the Massachusetts Turnpike, and a crow hits her windshield. It hits the windshield so hard that it breaks the windshield, and the poor thing is dead. She's fortunately close enough to a rest area that she's able to pull off and call a glass company and so on and so forth. While she's there, she sees all these emergency vehicles going by on the road. And somebody says, "Oh yeah, there was a big accident up ahead." And she said, "There's not a green Honda involved in that, is there?" I said, "Yeah, they think that that's who caused it." So the crow didn't lift her up out of her car, but it might as well have.
Yeah, it saved her in some way.
Exactly.
But then there are so many people here that do not believe that dreams can tell you the future, or dreams can really tell you what's going to happen in your life.
People will believe what people want to believe, and I'm not going to tell someone that they should believe other than how they do. Everybody has to make their own choices. What I always hope for people is that they will keep an open mind. My husband said to me years ago when we were talking about spiritual things, he said, "Donna, you have to understand that science is my God."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, honey, that's fine, but you have to remember something. 1,000 years ago, or whenever it was, when the alchemists were trying to turn lead into gold, they were the scientists, and Copernicus was the nut job. The nature of science is that it's always changing. It is not something that is ever finished." My brother's a geologist. He kind of knows from science. And he has a very clear understanding. He and I love to have spiritual discussions because we realize that science and spirituality are not competing with each other. It's two separate paths. And if spirituality doesn't conform to science, that's okay. As Paul has told me, something can be real and not be science. But if it's science, it has to conform to the rules of the scientific method.
Yeah.
That
And this doesn't, yes.
It doesn't yet. The
Yes.
time may come when it does. But as of right now, we can't do double-blind studies.
But
on
I'm
these kinds
sure
of things.
every person in this world has had some dream or the other from childhood onward, and many might have just happened in one way or another.
I think that's
It
possible.
was indicating them of something.
Yeah, I think that's possible.
Sometimes even I have questions, for psychologists who think that, oh, in your dream, if you think that you are being chased, then you're afraid of this or afraid of that, and a lot of times you ask the people that had those dreams. It's not just me. I've asked another 10 friends or family members and others. They've all had such dreams, and it wasn't that they were afraid of something, but then there was something that they had to be really careful about while they're even commuting or walking to work or walking across some strange town. They had to really be watchful, so that thing didn't happen.
I mean, not everybody, and of course that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, with the idea that we can't have a universal interpretation for any kind of scenario. Everybody has to be subjectively deciding for themselves what different things mean within their dreams. And that's why I said to the young lady, if it were my dream, this is what it would mean to me. Now, there's a number of reasons that we do that. The primary one is if we stick to if it were my dream, and it's never if it were my dream, you. I've had a person in a dream circle say to me, if it were my dream, are you pregnant? That didn't fly well, but she could have said, if it were my dream, I might wonder if I were pregnant. That makes it so that the dreamer is not intimidated by anything that's being said. They can take it, they can leave it, they can, the words that are being said can plant a seed in their head, and what that person said, well, that makes me think of this, which makes me think of that, which makes me think of the other thing, which leads me to this, and that's my answer. And if that original feedback had not been given in a non-threatening way, it could have just shut things down completely.
For that other person,
Yes,
the dreamer.
Exactly, for the dreamer. So that's why we're so careful in my circles to always phrase things correctly, if it were my dream. And as I had said to you when we were on the phone, there are two ways of playing if it were my dream. It can be if it were my dream, me, Donna, waking up with something, which is always the safest way, and can actually give you a lot of useful information because it's coming from a completely different angle than one might have thought of for oneself. The other way to do if it were my dream would be me wearing my Usha suit, if you will, or me putting myself in the life of the dreamer. So as a for instance, there was a fellow that I was working with, an older gentleman, who said that he had had a dream of a woman that he had dated when he was very young. And I said to him, if it were my dream, and if I were a 70-something-year-old man, I would actually think that it might be worth my while to give this woman a call. Because I, Donna, shifting back to being subjective, I, Donna, the man I knew as my grandfather, married my grandmother the year before I was born. They had dated when they were teenagers. They married other people. They were each widowed. And Grandpa said to himself one day, you know, I should call Edna. And that's how they had gotten together. So if I were in this gentleman's life, I would think, oh, that might be a good thing to do.
I think it's a very intriguing thing that happens to everyone, that they can dream. And maybe there's some good way to harness its power and use it to guide you in your life. Is that possible?
I think so. I think so. For me, working with dreams, it is acknowledging a contact, an ongoing contact with a higher self, with a guardian angel, with a higher power, with God, however one wants to label that spirit guide that's out there, that's always looking out for us. And I mean, dreams can be entertainment, dreams can be empowering, they can be warning systems, they can be body consciousness. I have a friend, her name is Wanda Birch. She wrote a book called She Who Dreams, and Wanda saved her own life because she listened to her dreams. She had been having a number of dreams. She had a dream about a garbage barge, but the garbage was under the barge.
Yeah.
Well, what's that about? Okay, write it in the journal. She had a dream about a ledge of rock with some scary, dark, mysterious stuff underneath this ledge. What's that about? Write it in the book. And all these dreams with somewhat similar imagery, write it down. I have no idea what it's about. Write it down.
Sometimes do the dreams mean something for us, or could the dreams mean something for somebody else?
They can be for other people. We can sometimes dream for other people, because if we have someone whose dreams are blocked, then we might dream for them.
I see.
But in Wanda's case, ultimately, her departed father came to her in a dream,
Oh, really?
wearing a doctor's lab coat, grabbed her by the lapels and said, "You have breast cancer!"
Oh.
And she had just been for her annual mammogram. She's like,
And she-
"No, I'm fine." But because of all these odd images, she went back to her doctor and she said, "You know, I'm getting these strange images." And the doctor, fortunately, was someone who listened to
So it
people's
wasn't
intuition.
because she feared that she might have one.
No.
It's not her own subconscious mind bringing
Exactly.
the dream.
It's whatever it is. It might be her body telling her, or her guardian angels, whatever the source
Okay,
was.
it's her own intuition telling her too,
Right.
in the form of dream.
Whatever the source might be. And the doctor finally did an ultrasound, and she had breast cancer.
did have.
And it was so close to her ribs that it wouldn't have ever been found on a mammogram. It was under a ledge of tissue.
Oh,
So that's where all the original dream imagery came from. And because her dream had been so clear, and when she looked back in her journals, the imagery leading up to it had been so clear, she said, "You know what, I better pay more attention to these dreams in general." So all through her chemo and radiation and surgery and, you know, the whole thing, she did a lot of Eastern medicine as well.
Yes.
But her dreams told her very clearly that she needed to have a multi-pronged approach to this, that she needed to do the surgery, that she needed all of the different things that were
we only have
available.
about 5 minutes left,
Oh
or
my
less than
goodness.
that. So could you tell us something about
Absolutely.
the figurine you brought?
The items that I brought are things that I tend to bring to my dream circles when I do them. When I do a dream circle, I set up an altar cloth in the center of the circle, and I put some candles and some flowers and some power objects down. And deer and bear are two of my power animals. The cowrie shell.
Are those animals from your shamanic?
They're from
work?
the shamanic work that I've done.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So for each person, they say there is an animal connected to that, a spirit or
one
something.
or more.
Oh,
People
animals?
can have a lot of different animals.
And what do the animals do for them?
It depends on the person. That is a whole
guide them?
subject unto
Okay.
itself. But yes, definitely there's a lot of wonderful energy. But this lady here is known as the dreaming goddess of Malta.
Of Malta.
On the
Okay.
island of Malta, there are these amazing caves.
Yeah.
And actually, if you have the opportunity, there's a young woman named Jennifer Berezan, Berezan. and she put out an album called Returning. She recorded the album in the dreaming caves of Malta.
I see.
The acoustics in the caves, they're man-made caves, or probably woman-made caves more accurately. The acoustics are perfect, and the caves included the statue of the dreaming goddess, and they were created for dream incubation. So you would go to these caves and ask for a healing dream. And one of the ladies earlier was talking about dreaming at a museum. The ancient Greek temples of Asclepius, the god Asclepius, were specifically for healing dreams. People would go to these temples, they would make offerings to Asclepius, and they would spend the night and ask for a healing dream. So there's so many different facets throughout the world with the old spiritualities. Dreaming has always been a powerful thing.
You have this drum here.
I have.
What is that, and when do you use it?
This is my frame drum, and
we only have a minute, less than a minute.
we'll
left.
just do a couple of little pings on that.
And what does that mean? When do you do that?
We use that for when we do dream reentry, when we do dream tracking, which is when we go into each other's dreams in a meditative state, and the drum herds the brain waves into the same rhythm that we are in when we are in REM sleep. So it assists us into getting into the meditation, if you will, when we're doing a dream reentry and a dream tracking.
Oh, I see.
That's our
And
plan.
what about the
Oh, I have my dragon down
little?
here. Dragon is someone who is very connected to the dreaming for me, so I like to bring the dragon to a lot of my dream circles as well.
And it helps you with it's like another animal that
It's
helps
sort of
you.
another power animal. That would be a good way of putting it. Yes.
Oh, thank you, Donna. It's so lovely to hear so much about positive things
Thank
that we
you.
can learn about our own dreams.
Thank
so
you.
we should not be afraid. We should dream more.
Absolutely. Dream on.
Thank you very much. And
Absolutely.
thank you very much,
Thank
Donna.
you. If I could tell people again, my phone
Yes,
number,
please.
203-241-7336. I will be doing a dream circle in Brookfield next Wednesday at probably 6:30.
Time is out. Thank you, Donna.
Thank
that
you.
was Donna Katsuranis, and I hope you enjoyed this dream show. Thank you for watching.